In cases whereby there are, let's say for example, there's an HR department in a company, right? How do you think, or how do you see HR teams contributing to or overlooking compliance in workplaces? What are the 3 things that you think businesses should fix right now or should work on, just to be compliant?
Oh, for me, I can maybe say one and then she can say the rest. So I think...
Why are you giving her to say 2? Like, just throwing you under the bus there.
Business, there's different aspects that need to come with it. First and foremost, people don't even think about the fact that you need to take your name. So for example, let's say you want to name a business like how they named our business Atlas Blue & Co. You need to check and research, is that name available? Once you've seen if that name is available, you need to book it, because your mind is great, but it's not a singular, you're not the only person who's going to come up with that idea.
Hi guys, you are watching Couchtalk with LHS, where we have meaningful conversations about HR related topics, leadership, entrepreneurship, business, culture, and the ever evolving workplace. I am your host, Neompele, aka Boss Lady, and today I am sitting with 2 beautiful ladies from Atlas Blue, Chrystelle, who's the project manager, as well as Salima, who's the sales consultant. Hi ladies, how are you?
Good in yourself.
Hello, thank you so much for having us, Boss Lady.
Love that. You must keep up the energy throughout this whole episode.
I will do my best.
Do you have an alias, an AKA?
No, they just call me Chrystelle.
They just call you Chrystelle. Okay, it's lovely meeting you guys and having you on the podcast. So we're talking, because I just had a look at your business, Atlas Blue, right? There's different pillars onto the business. Maybe just throwing it back at you ladies. What does the business do? What do you guys do?
Well, Atlas Blue & Co. was started by our founders they found that a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs have great ideas or awesome side hustles that everybody thinks this is amazing. But when it comes to compliance, that's where people seem to fall a little bit short, not only with HR, but also with things like insurance, taxes, finances, or documents. For example, somebody starts an amazing side hustle, but the business isn't registered. Or somebody starts something great, the business is finally making money, they haven't done their taxes properly. Or somebody starts an amazing business, it's something small like selling a bunch of roses. They've made quite a bit of money, and then all of a sudden, boom, the tax man comes and takes most of the income, which we're also seeing on social media right now as we speak with the... I'm not going to name the people, but
No, absolutely not. Yes. Yeah. I think one of the biggest things, because that's what we also experience in the HR space, that as much as, sometimes in some cases, businesses are registered. However, compliance in terms of the HR side, they feel like it's fluffy stuff. We don't need you. You've got 5 employees. Where he's like, even if you've got 1 employee, you still need HR. Absolutely. So maybe in that particular space, because now we know what the business does, where, what sort of issues were you trying to, or gaps were you trying to solve with the business?
Okay, in that case, I feel like it's more of helping people fix their tax, getting to it, because most people just want to look at the business. They don't want to go what exactly leads the business and make the business legit. That's what I think. Maybe you can.
And we've also been looking at employees. When it comes to HR and compliance, for example, you have 1 to 5 employees. You think, I don't need a contract. Labor issues will always be labor issues. A contract is going to help your business. Not only will it protect you in the future, but it also protects your employees. At the end of the day, a business isn't only just you as a business owner. It's you. It's your clients. And it's the people that work for you.
Absolutely.
It's an organization. So compliance, when it comes to HR, when it comes to finances, compliance isn't only financial aspects with SARS. It's also your relations with your employees, which is why Atlas Blue & Co. was founded.
Okay, that's great. So, but then let's just talk about, because I mean, we've already established maybe some SMEs don't think about, not because they don't want to be compliant, it's something at the back of their, minds. It's not important now, I can get to it. And then a year passes by and then SARS knocks, by your door. But why do you think some employers avoid being compliant or avoid going through this whole process?
Because nobody likes paperwork.
Yes.
There's so much paperwork.
We don't
No
like it,
one
but it's
likes-
important.
Nobody wants to read and be like, because these papers or documents have like plus minus 50 pages. Nobody's gonna want to sit down and read all of that. So they like, okay, fine, I'll get to it, and they never get to it, and then they wait for something to happen, then they get to it. So I think it's more of that, just the fact that we don't want to read. We want to get into the business and do it.
And just do it.
And at the end of the day, a business is more about, they're thinking about the profit.
Yeah.
They're not thinking about the paperwork. They want to make the money first, and then the paperwork is maybe a third or fourth thing that comes to mind. People only start thinking about the paperwork when either there are consequences coming, either you're getting sued, or you're being taken to labor court, or small claims, or SARS is knocking at your door. Small things like that.
Yeah. So let's talk about, because I mean, we already established the different pillars that you guys have within the organization and what it is that you guys do. So maybe just in just maybe elaborating on those different pillars. So we spoke about registration. What is your involvement with the registration process? If somebody would want to register a business.
Well, if somebody wants to register a business, there's different aspects that need to come with it. First and foremost, people don't even think about the fact that you need to take your name. So, for example, let's say you want to name a business like how they named our business, Atlas Blue & Co. You need to check and research, is that name available? Once you've seen if that name is available, you need to book it because, your mind is great, but it's not a singular... You're not the only person who's going to come up with that idea.
Yeah.
So you need to book that name first. Then you need to register it with the CIPC. After registering with the CIPC, I know everybody hates this part, but you need to register in order to get a tax number so that eventually you can open a business account. Something small like opening a business account takes 4 steps, whereas opposed to like people don't really think about those type of things. We think, oh my word, I want to make a profit. But the money needs to go somewhere and it can't always go into your personal account.
Definitely.
Yeah, so that's
more of it actually.
Okay, all right. And then maybe just in terms of going forward, because I mean, the registration of the businesses is one aspect. Let's talk about, because you mentioned the tax aspect of things. What is your involvement? Just so that at least if people would want to get in contact with you, they know what is it that you guys do and how you fit in with their business.
Well, at the end of the day, we do what a business needs us to do,
whatever
it is that they need.
Holistically.
So we basically, it's like we leave you guys do the business, but we follow up with the paperwork. We do all that needs to be done, like on the paper. All you as the business owner can do is maybe just follow up with your business, but the side, we do it all for you and make sure the business is actually running.
Exactly. But what we've noticed with a lot of our clients is that a lot of clients have questions when it comes to stuff like VAT. For example, they don't know, okay, do I have to register for VAT? I'm not making that much money. It's not really that big of an issue. Or they say...
They just don't want...
They don't want to.
We don't have a choice in it sometimes.
We've had people that are like, I'm the sole proprietor. I don't have any employees. I don't have any of this. I don't need to do this compliance thing. It's not a necessity. What they do is they avoid paying their taxes and they just pay the rebuttals, meaning when SARS comes and says, hey, you owe this. Then they pay what is owed based on what SARS is saying, but not what they actually owe. And they don't think about the aspect of, oh, they're going to do this to me for maybe 3-4 years. They'll penalize me now. But eventually, it's going to be, oh, you actually owe us this amount. And it's going to be a large amount.
Yeah.
So even as a sole proprietor, which is one of the reasons that we came here, is compliance is super important, not only when it comes to taxes, but as a sole proprietor of a business, you don't have any employees, you don't have any of those things. whatever business you have, specifically our clients tend to be logistics or construction companies.
Okay.
Whatever it is that you do, even if you are the sole proprietor,
you still need to be compliant.
You still need to be compliant.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest aspects, like you said, people don't necessarily think about it, or they just don't want to go through the paperwork. I don't want to deal with all of these things. In your experience, tell us about, where poor structures created challenges in organizations.
Well, I did give the example of the gentleman who didn't want to pay taxes because he thought, if I just pay the amount that they give me at the end of the year, I should be fine. That is a gentleman who will probably have problems in the future. It might not happen now, but SARS never forgets, man. They never forget.
They never forget. They remember everything.
Another example of an issue that we've had with a client or potential client has been a gentleman who didn't understand why his employees were taking him to labor relations. For example, his employees were incredibly happy while working with him. They never showed any issues on their part. And now their contract is over and now they're giving him problems. But at the end of the day, an employee is not always comfortable telling their boss what issues that they have. They're going to keep it to themselves. And when you lose your job, even if the contract is over, a normal human being's gonna be angry and they will follow up. And at the end of the day, South Africans have rights, especially when it comes to being an employee.
Yeah.
So they're gonna rebuttal. We've had questions like that, like, I don't understand why this is happening. Why am I being taken to labor relations? Or, for example, some employees don't even take you to labor relations. You've had a 2-month contract, which a lot of employers like to do. They've put the employee on probation, and then they make the employee work on the 3rd month, where there's no contract that's been signed. And all of a sudden, now because no contract has been signed or anything, the employee takes them to small claims. And they ask themselves, why am I here? Because you didn't pay that person for their work.
Worked for
the 3 months.
Yeah.
You paid them only for 2, and you expected them to work the last month for free.
Yeah.
And the excuse is, we didn't have a contract, it's because you were not compliant.
Exactly.
That's the end of the story.
Yeah.
There.
So now in cases whereby there are, let's say for example, there's an HR department in a company, right? How do you think, or how do you see HR teams contributing to or overlooking compliance in workplaces?
I don't think, I've never really experienced HR teams overlooking compliance per se, but what I have seen is that HR teams at the end of the day, sometimes, not all the time, there's a bias there because they see the employees all the time and we're human beings. So they're gonna have favorites, not per se like showing wise, but they will have favorites in the back of their minds, or there will be people that irritate you because you work with them. Whereas if you have a third party overlooking your HR and compliance, it's a bit better because that person doesn't know the employees that you're working with. So they can form a third party perspective, which is why it's a good thing to have an outside consultant when it comes to those type of things.
Yeah, just so that they can maybe just see from an outside perspective and judge fairly.
Exactly.
In the organization. So can I just go back, ladies, with regards to, you're targeting, like you said, sole proprietors or your SMEs. For example, it's companies that don't necessarily have an HR department that you are assisting in this particular regard, right? How do you then strike that balance? Do you normally work with the employers themselves, or do you work with the employers and the employees? Or is it just regarding compliance for the employers?
For now, we've been targeting employers, but we are open to working with employees because at the end of the day, as SME, as I said in the beginning, does not only involve an employer.
There's multiple
there are a lot of
aspects process.
And unfortunately, your employees are also stakeholders
because
they invest their time.
Exactly. Time is also being invested. That's true.
Yeah. So can I just ask them because again and again we talk about compliance, and it's an issue, it's a burden with these particular employers. But why is it seen as a burden instead of a strategic tool? because you have to be compliant, but it also just helps with a number of things. It's not just about ticking boxes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What a lot of business owners do not realize and invest, having a compliant company opens you up to investors. It opens you up to more opportunities, and it makes you look more professional.
More professional, actually, and people don't see that part.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It also makes you get more customers because this business is compliant, less problems for me, and they seem to have good reviews. Let me go with that.
Yeah.
As opposed to the cheaper option. Cheap is not always.
It's not always, and I think that's what we get. Maybe just to go back, because you're a sales consultant, right? You target these potential clients, and we understand. I mean, we have to balance. If you're an entrepreneur or you're in the business of selling, you need to balance, our value proposition to these particular clients versus what we charge. And you're right in saying that cheap does not always guarantee, the results. Is it fit for purpose? Because as much as I'm giving a service, it might not be what you need for your business, but it might be tailored for her business. So what sort of issues are you getting when, targeting these particular SMMEs?
Sometimes you maybe find someone or a company that they don't want. And maybe when it comes to the money situation, there are companies that just don't want to work with you, maybe, or have the same input.
Yeah.
So we sometimes face those kind of things.
Yeah. But then what's your value proposition? Like, what are you selling to them? Why should I take you and not, company B, for example?
Well, you can answer that.
Well, usually what we do is we say, listen, at the end of the day, what you want is efficiency. And that's what Atlas Blue & Co. brings. Efficiency. Yes, for example, the companies that we compete with are companies on Facebook.
Yes.
They are charging 550 Rand for company registration and insurance. And at the end of the day, you know what? Company registration, okay, maybe 550 Rand, but being tax compliant is not going to cost you 550. You need to be a little bit realistic here.
Yeah.
You can pay that 550 Rand and get scammed the first time, or you can pay the amount that we're charging you and have it done properly and have it done quickly and have it done the way that it should be done, so that you don't have to repeat the process over and over again.
Yeah.
Get it done once.
Just once, yeah. But again, I think based on what I've seen, the costing model, the structure, is also it depends on whether you've got, if you're an independent person, you're just a consultant by yourself, or you've got structures in place. Obviously, those also need to be factored in. So again, it's basically the value proposition that we sell to the clients. What is it that, it's always about, yes, sometimes some clients are cost sensitive, but it's about the end results. What am I going to get? Is it going to benefit my business? And do they fit in with, with my business at the end of the day?
Exactly.
And most businesses don't look at that. They just be like, because you find a business that be like, okay, she's on like 520.
Yeah.
She's on 6. I'm going to go for the 520. And the 520 doesn't give you what you actually want. And then you go and say, no, it's scam.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's basically what we try to do. We try to improve businesses, but we're also trying to be a bit realistic here. We're not only doing, this is the cheapest way to do it, let's do that.
Yes.
We're negotiable, don't get us wrong. Our price market isn't fixed. Depending on the business and how the business wants to work with us, we are willing to negotiate on prices. But at the end of the day, you need to be a little bit realistic with what we give people.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you also can't shortchange what it is that you're going to bring to your clients as well. If this is the process, you stand by it. This is the process.
Exactly.
Before we move on, just a reminder, please save the date. We do have an APSO conference on the 23rd of June. That is at the MH Hotel in Sandton, and we will see you there. All right, ladies. So based on what we've covered, right, what are the 3 things that you think businesses should fix right now or should work on, just to be compliant?
Oh, for me, I can maybe say one and then she can say the rest. So I think...
Why are you giving her to say 2? Like, just throwing you under the bus there. So you must just get yourself ready.
Get ready.
Yeah.
No, I think that they should register their companies also. Because you can have everything, but if it's not registered, then you're doing nothing. Because when something can obviously come up, and then what? We don't even know that you're a running business, and it also creates many things later on. So I think first and foremost, register the company. Ensure that it's up to date.
Yeah. And also, I think for me, I mean, I'm also an entrepreneur. You know, it's very important with the registration, you're looking at the kind of client base that you're looking at. I mean, if I'm going for private companies registration, that is fine. But if I'm going to target public sectors, then there's further registrations in terms of your CSD. You need to be compliant in certain things. So it just, you know, it carries on, which is very important. And like you said, if you're a sole proprietor, you're just thinking, I want to do this, get it over and done with. Maybe you've got the registration, but you're not looking at it, you know, holistically in terms of the market and the target market that you're looking at. So Chrystelle, number 2 and 3.
You guys, no, but I agree with her. She is right when it comes to having your own business, and a side hustle is a business.
It is a business,
by the way. A lot of people think it's just a small side hustle that I'm doing on the side. Salima's right. You should register your company regardless of if it's a side hustle or not, because what's going to happen to you, something comes through. And I was also explaining that you know, compliance isn't only financial aspects. Financial aspects are incredibly important, taxes and things like that. They're scary, but they're important. But what's also important is, especially if you have a company where you have employees, remember it's HR, it's human resources. Those type of things are incredibly important. Compliance when it comes to HR should be, especially if you have a company with employees, should be one of your top priorities. It should really be right up there. So I would say HR compliance, it should be something that you look at. Not only, HR compliance doesn't only have to do with contracts. It can also be other things such as, you know, how my relations are with my employees, how do my employees interact in the workspace. As an employer, your first thought is always, oh my word, I need to make a profit in order to pay my employees. And don't get me wrong, money is important, but how you interact with your employees is also incredibly important. And as entrepreneurs, especially as the owners of companies, we don't always have time to interact with our employees. So we hire people below us, for example, managers, to do it. But sometimes your manager's not interacting with your employees the way that you would like them to. But you're not aware of it because your employees are too scared to speak about it. So as an employer, I would say not only should you work on business registration, business compliance with finances, and HR compliance, but a fourth thing is you should also look at how do your employees interact with each other. And I know that, why is this my problem? It kind of is, because your company's associated with your name, so you must make sure that those things are well done, and that's why HR compliance is so important.
I'm trying not to get so deep into the HR aspect because that's my forte. And you know, when we're talking about these things, we're talking about culture. I mean, we've had previous episodes where we're talking about culture, the interaction, how you treat your employees. And I know with SMMEs, they sometimes think, you know what, it's fluff. It's just, you know, the soft skills or soft things. I don't need it at the moment. If we go to CCMA, I can pay, but it's about the reputation, right? And I'm going to go back to what you said in terms of the managers. I would say sometimes because we're not positioned correctly in the business at times as entrepreneurs or SMMEs, because you're running the business, you finance, you this, that, and the other. So when you get the managers, at least equip those particular managers, you know, just so that at least we build the culture within the organization. But the compliance thereof, because it's not about contracts only, it's about all the other aspects that that are included in there.
Exactly.
Okay. And then just my last question, how do you see compliance evolving in the future? So it could be on any aspect that you guys, you know, work with.
Well, I do see, in my opinion, compliance will evolve in the aspect of regarding, especially with companies that we work with PPEs. That is something that a lot of, especially construction companies, tend to overlook. So when it comes to PPEs, which is super duper duper important, I really emphasize this, is that machinery, for example, the helmets or the boots, one workman will have an issue with his boots, or one workman will have an issue with his mask when it comes to working with dust, and will fall ill and will either injure themselves or fall ill, and that can make your project take 4 to 5 times longer than it should. It takes one person injuring themselves. So I think that it's already quite important in itself, but that will become even more important.
Yeah.
Because it not only does it hinder your employee, so you're also looking at the aspect of HR. You're also looking at the aspect of compliance. You're also looking at the aspect of you're being too slow for your client. Now you're losing money. Now you're also losing your reputation because you don't protect your employees.
Yeah.
So all these things, PPE, HR compliance, financial compliance, at the end of the day, all of those things interlink with each other.
Definitely.
And now, because that workman is injured, and you didn't have insurance on your employees, now you have to pay cash.
Yeah.
So you see how all of those, that's why
linked, yes.
That's why we started Atlas Blue & Co. We work with anything a business needs. And at the end of the day, we work with all aspects of your business: HR and compliance, insurance, PPE.
So it's an ecosystem.
Everything is an ecosystem.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, ladies. Maybe just in closing, if people would want to get in touch with you, right, and maybe just to have a conversation. I mean, you're in sales, so I think this is your time to shine. Sell the business, How can they get in touch with you?
Okay, they can get it from our email. It's at atlasblue.co.za, and we also have our WhatsApp number. I don't know it by head.
No, I don't know my WhatsApp number by head. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Sorry.
We'll share your WhatsApp number on
But
the screen.
we do have a website.
We also have a website.
We have a website where everything is there, including our WhatsApp number.
Yeah.
You can just scroll to the bottom of the page. All our social media
Everything
pages
is there.
are there.
Yeah, on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining us, ladies. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. I think I always just, have things that I take from each conversation. And from this particular conversation, compliance is key. So there's not, cutting or maybe short-changing anything within a business. Each and every single function is important. And even if you don't know how to do it yourself, you can get people outsource just so that you know that you are compliant, because you don't want to get yourself, on the wrong side of the law. Right?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us, boss lady.
Thank you so much for
Thank you very
having
much.
us.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much. So remember, if you've got a story to share or you want to share your experience, you can get in touch with us on marketing@letalohr.co.za. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And like I always say, you don't have to take everything from the podcast, but at least take one thing with you. And until the next episode, bye.